Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Benefits Cool Down with that guy right there, Ed Legande, my good friend on the West Coast, Southern California to be specific. My name's Eric Silverman. And Ed, man, what are we talking about today?
It's a great question, man. So I've been thinking about this a lot as it's come up in conversation. The last couple sessions we've talked about how this benefit industry has transitioned over the last decade or so. So there's a myth that I was looking to see if you wouldn't help me debunk, right? And since you're the expert when it comes to the enhanced benefit solutions and things of that nature, for a long time, there's been this stigma that sometimes those benefits only really appeal to a certain type of collar industry, the blue collar industry, right? And things of that nature. So I wanted to ask you at the end of the day, is that still the case? And if not, how do we debunk this myth at the end of the day?
Sure. Great question, man. And, it's interesting because I would like to tell you that myth is only a myth and that it's changed over the years. But sadly, there are a number of advisors and brokers and consultants, and frankly, even human resource executives who still believe that the industry formerly known as voluntary, or as I call enhanced benefits, are only for blue collar workers. In that type of industry, whether it be high-end blue collar or low-end blue collar, for what it's worth. And that's just not the case. At the end of the day, I look at it this way. The best, most robust, incredible medical benefits you could ever have in the world still will never pay your mortgage, your rent, your car payment, your utilities, your gas, electric, heating, air conditioning, student loans, credit card debt. Heck, we haven't even eaten yet. So food on the table, right? So the sheer fact of the matter is, yes, I would agree that stereotypically, I guess you could say that a white collar employee may, notice I didn't say will, but may have more assets saved up for a rainy day in case they have a challenge and they have some unexpected bills that pile up that medical doesn't cover. But that's an if, that's a maybe, right? I know a ton of people, and probably many people watching today know a ton of people that are defined as a white collar position, but they don't have a big rainy day fund. Now, I'm not going to ask them that. They're never going to admit it. But ultimately, their financial advisor may know that they too are living paycheck to paycheck, just like a stereotypical blue collar worker. And we don't say that to be offensive. It's just a sheer fact. At the end of the day, a benefit that pays cash directly to an employee in their most vulnerable and needed time is going to be the most incredible benefit they could ever imagine. And I always say to a white collar person, again, somebody who has that white collar position, at least from a stereotypical perspective, I always say to them, whether or not you look at this as a need or not, look at it as a lifestyle and asset protection, right? At the end of the day, do you really want to, and again, this is going to be an overreach right now, so don't hang up and don't be offended. But I would say to you, just in a conversation, do you want to have your BMW repossessed? Do you want to ultimately not be able to pay for your kids' private school, right? Again, I'm overreaching here in my example, but when you look at these benefits in a white collar environment, it becomes more of a lifestyle and asset protection. And I'll end with a quick story. At the end of the day, what really changed my mind, and I'm not saying I was ever in favor it only being blue collar, but when I started in the industry 20 something years ago, I was trained that it was only for blue collar. And I didn't really understand why, but I always had that mindset. So I'm sitting down with the CEO of a large regional health club chain, a gym, if you will. And their client at that point, this is the very, very early 2000s, maybe 2001, 2002. And he says, why have you been ignoring me? And long story short, or backup story, I had never reached out and tried to meet with him one-on-one to quote unquote enroll and show him the benefits we were being offered, because I just assumed, you know what they say about people that assume, I assumed that it wasn't a good fit for him. He's a multimillionaire, true, fact, was then, still is today, and he wouldn't need these benefits. And ultimately, when I finally sat down with him, he was not happy. And he said, why have you been ignoring me? Why would you think that I don't want these benefits? He's like, I brought you in for a reason. I signed on the dotted line for a reason. And I said, oh, and of course I'm young and green and I didn't know any better. And I said, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. Let me explain. And he goes, no, let me tell you why these benefits are so important and why I brought them in. I said, sure. He said, because my wife battled brain cancer and won. But during that time, I couldn't run my business. I couldn't be here with my employees for multiple years in a row. And he said, yes, absolutely, we were fine financially. But that wasn't the case. He said for a few bucks a week, he could have had a plan like a critical illness or an accident, or not accident in that case, but a critical illness or a cancer plan or a hospital plan that would have paid him multiple tens of thousands of dollars throughout the treatment she was going through. And again, that would turn into, as I just said, lifestyle and asset protection, minimal expense out for maximum total benefit later if and when needed. So that really was a light bulb moment for me, changed my entire perspective on the industry that I am literally in for all these years. And it just pains me when I hear advisors, brokers, consultants, and HR executives still to this day in the year 22 consider that this side of the industry is only for blue collar and nobody with a white collar would ever want it. So anyway, we're out of time, Ed. I want to hear your opinion. So everybody stay tuned for next week where we're going to ask the same question. I'm going to ask the same question to Ed, and I can't wait to hear what he says. So guys, everybody listening, appreciate you as always. I'm Eric Silverman. That's Ed Legande, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.